quickly to Emoni Bates. He
Hmm.
spoke to the media first, media availability. It seemed like on the internet, I think the clip was like 4 minutes or so, but
Hmm.
behind the scenes, there was a little more footage that the Cavs didn't actually have out there on the internet. You were at the availability. What did you hear, and what were your thoughts about some of the comments that he made, or just impression of what he said?
You can tell he's a young kid who's had to deal with a lot of pressure his entire life. I wrote about this actually today, just previewing Summer League. He was 15 years old when he was called the next Kevin Durant, and he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And then he reclassified and was 17 years old as a freshman in college, expected to do all these great things and be the first overall pick in the upcoming draft. And even though he wasn't old enough, there was expectations with that. And he didn't meet those expectations, and then the public perception of him slipped and flipped quite a bit. And yeah, he did a lot of not great things off the court, and I think it's not apples to apples. Everyone's situation is unique to them, but when you're 17, 18 years old, I did a lot of dumb stuff when I was 17 and 18 years old. I mean, not like to the extent that Emoni did, but still, like, people maybe were just overplaying that too much. And during his availability, he had mentioned that just like at his time at Memphis and his time at Eastern Michigan, like a little bit of the joy from basketball went away from him just because there was so much pressure and so many expectations and the spotlight was constantly on him. And I think it is humbling at least because he said he took it in stride, but it's humbling at least to go from a guy that was projected to be the next generational prospect to possibly a first round pick and then tumble all the way to the back end of the second round. Like, he said this is the best week of his life so far in Cleveland just because he's finally out of the spotlight and he can just go do what he wants to do, and that's play basketball. And I think Cleveland's coaching staff is very conducive and mindful of that. He's admitted, like, hey, I haven't been great on defense. I need to be better at that. I need to get bigger and stronger because well, just looking at him physically, he's such a tall human being, but he's so thin. And he's like, I'm 182 right now. I want to get up to 195 just so I can kind of handle the rigors of playing the three or the four. And I'm interested to see what he looks like in summer league. I think he's going to be a bit of a project, a bit of a work in progress because he's so young, and I think just kind of raw, and there's a lot of untapped potential there. But being in a system or at least a culture that is conducive to growth and kind of being around coaches that just will set you up for success and teammates that will set you up for success will do a lot of good things for him. And yeah, that soundbite of him saying, like, I lost my joy at Memphis and Eastern Michigan and I've kind of refound it pretty quickly in this week at in Cleveland so far. Like, he's like, I love every second of this. He's like, I'm just grateful I have the thing I love most back in my life.
Do you think that JB Bickerstaff is the right man in charge to, get this team over the hump and obviously develop a kid like Emoni Bates?
So that's a fair question. So in Emoni Bates' situation, he'll likely sign a two-way deal with Cleveland. He may see some time on the floor for the Cavs, whether it's a blowout or they are just resting a bunch of guys just for a certain night. But he'll more often than not, whoever's coaching the Charge next year, whether it's Mike Garrity or they bring in somebody new just to get that experience, he'll be spending a lot of time with the Charge next year, just focusing on his player development, focus on like his God-given strength and ability because he's just so lanky and long. But he's just such a pure shooter. You got to refine that and kind of get him, and this is something he stressed. He's like, I want to become more of a movement shooter. I just don't want to be a guy who stands in isolation or has to spot up. Like, I want to be a guy who keeps defenses moving and kind of feed off the gravity of my teammates. And to your point, JB, I think, is a great guy. I think he's a great coach. I think he has his finger on the pulse of this locker room. I think the pantsing the Cavs suffered in the playoffs makes you want to kind of question the legitimacy of everyone. I know, like, we're almost 2 months removed at this point, so it's fair to question like what's working and what's not working with this team. I wouldn't say, hey, fire him if they lose 4 or 5 games in a row to start the season, or maybe they kind of come out rougher than expected. But let's say heading into the mid, like around the All-Star break, and I give David Griffin credit for this because he just knew David Blatt wasn't the guy. Like, if it's just like the vibe doesn't seem right, yeah, then maybe you pull the plug on it. Or if you're able to ride this out long enough and the Cavs flame out again in the postseason, then you say, yeah, I don't think he's the guy that can take you all the way. But he's so young, JB. He doesn't have a ton of experience. I know he did coach the Harden Rockets that 1 year in the playoffs, and they lost in a best of five. And it's fair to question everything about this team. I know you guys are just debating Jared Allen. Like, there's a lot of debate about him just because he got bullied by Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and Josh Hart in the playoffs. So I think the Cavs themselves just have to answer all these questions and kind of drown out as much of this noise as possible. And we'll see what we have, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 games into the season.
Hey, Evan, I believe that Ty Jerome was probably the sneakiest free agent signing in the NBA so far this offseason. Do you think he's the Cavs' primary backup point guard this season?
That's a great question. I think it's a great signing, too. I think it's even more clever of Cleveland just to price him out just enough so Golden State couldn't afford him. I think that's just like, a little gamesmanship, even though it's not on the court. But Ty Jerome is an interesting player. I think Cavs fans, when they remember that really beat-up Warriors team came into town and smacked them, Ty Jerome was a big catalyst of that. And I don't know if he'll be the backup point guard per se, just because Ricky Rubio does have that track record, clout, and most importantly, trust with JB. But if Rubio's shot just isn't working or it just isn't functioning out there, I think, you give Ty Jerome Ricky Rubio's minutes and let him play off of a guy like Karis LeVert, who you want to empower to be like your sixth man and be your lead guard off the bench, or he can be creative in lineups such like one of Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland and LeVert, and you just give more spacing to this team and more shooting options so you can allow your big guys to have room down low. You can allow your guards to drive to the basket and either get contact or kick it out to a guy like Jerome, who's a reliable three-point shooter. Yeah, I think it's a sneaky good signing. He fits in with the timeline the team's building, and right now, I don't say, you give him minutes in the rotation. JB's a guy who usually goes 8, maybe 9 deep. And right now, I have Ty Jerome, penciled in as, the 9th man for this Cavs team with LeVert, Niang, and either Okoro or Strus, depending on who starts ahead of them.
Evan, man, we thank you so much. We'll talk to you as the season goes on. I'm interested in checking out Summer League, and we'll be looking for your work as well.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
All right, take it.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. One thing Evan mentioned in that I want to hit on again here, or I'm gonna let you start, was the Bates comments of falling out of love with basketball, or starting to fall out of love while he was at Eastern Michigan and Memphis, and now refining that love. Earl, thoughts on the comments and how it was portrayed?
So when I came in this morning, me and McNuggets talk about it. Can I see Evan's tweet again before I make my comments? Because I think I asked Mike, I wanted to see the full context of what he had to say before I gave my thoughts on it.
There you go. Emoni Bates shared with us that he lost his love for basketball after his time at Memphis and Eastern Michigan, but his joining the Cavs has re-sparked his love for the game, mostly because he's out of the spotlight and can hoop. It's been the best week of my life, quote from Emoni
All right,
Bates.
so this is authentically how I feel. I know, we've been playing around, but I'm dead serious when I say this, right? Nobody in this world likes a liar. But you can't tell everybody the truth, right? Emoni Bates came into this situation to where we heard Jason say he done spoke to 4 or 5 NBA teams. Nobody has anything good to say about him. Nobody believes that he's going to develop into being anything, that he's never going to fulfill his potential. You got a lot of people that's still talking about him being a head case, being immature. Dude has a target on his back, right? I appreciate him being authentic, but the truth is, nobody likes a liar, but you can't be honest with everybody, man. Some people will take that and use it against you. There are people already, man, and I'm not saying everybody in the media is like this, but when you've already made up your mind about somebody, or you got a pre-concluded determination of how somebody is, and they come and say something like that, that's clickbait that can be used against him. That's something that can work against his mental focus, work against the energy, etc. So to me, I just felt like he would have been better off not saying that at all.
I'm right there with you. I mean, it's just one of those things that, sometimes I like the authenticity as well. I mean, that's really where a lot of society connects with people that's not afraid to be their true selves in front of the camera. But I think that was just too much information. I mean, that's something that, later in life, after you've had a good season, you balled and you've overcome the odds, then you sit down on a talk show on somebody's podcast, you can be like, you know what, man? I actually lost my love for basketball when I played for Memphis and Eastern Michigan, but I ended up finding it back with the Cavs. But I just think it was a little early to give that information out because, like Earl's saying, a lot of people is going to judge you. Everybody's already looking at you with the side eye, and you just giving them more ammunition. Now, like I said, you go out there and ball. It don't. In the grand scheme of things, if you handle your business, none of it matters. But I just think we got to do a better job of knowing when to say certain things.
I just think we need to take a step back and just look at the circumstances that surround the situation. You know, you get a kid that's on the cover of Sports Illustrated from the time that you 5, 6 years old. You got people that you don't know if you can trust them. You don't know if you got people that's in your corner because they want something. Your parents look at you different because you different. You different from your brothers and sisters because you got the golden ticket. Then you reclassify at 17. I think people don't understand that, you know, the human mind as a physiological and emotional person, your mind is still developing at 25. So take a person that's 16, 17, moving away from home, going to play at a strange place that you don't know nobody. All people expecting you to be the craziest person in the world. You dealing with the fact that you skipped your senior year of high school. You don't have nobody really that's there. You get in trouble. So now you done got in trouble. Now it's like, oh my goodness. Now it's like, I done let all these people down. I done went from Memphis to Eastern Michigan. And trust me, like, I know what it is to be recruited by high schools, and then all of a sudden they're like, you went to a MAC school. How'd you go to a MAC school? Like, what happened? Why? I thought you was going this way. So now you get a situation where now he's there, he goes to a MAC school, and when you have those many expectations in life, we don't know how everybody handles that, right? Like, so if you 16, 17 years old, I can understand if you lost your passion for the game. At the end of the day, I can understand as anybody losing their passion. There's times where I play for coaches and I've been in positions that made my life a living hell. I was at Ohio University and I said, I hate this. You know why? We're losing. Our coaches don't know what they're talking about, and we went 1-12. I don't like doing this. And that's a part of you being older, right? But what you have is, okay, I felt like that. The first step in being a mature person and getting past certain things is understanding where I was at, where I went wrong, so I don't get back there anymore. And the first step is saying, you know what? I'm thankful for having this opportunity because now I did get drafted. Now I can see being around this environment and these people, I can grow. But the first step is admitting to yourself. I would have been more horrified if he would have said, oh, everything was cool. I was straight. Because then I would question, well, if you thought that was okay and you was comfortable with that, then we might have to strip this down and get to what the root of the problem. But I think it was refreshing for the young man to tell his story and to give his truth. And at the end of the day, we're going to get media people that scrutinize stuff anyway. At the end of the day, that's what we do. Our job, and a lot of what this job is, as Earl did say, people will take that and use it against you. That's the media. That's for us. That's what we do. At the end of the day, you don't worry about that. If that's your truth, you work on your truth, you work on your game, and now you insulate it to a point where now you can get back to just playing basketball and doing you and building yourself back up. But I don't have a problem with it. He's 17, 18 years old. He'll get better. He'll learn how to do media training. But I think the first step was him opening up to the people and saying, I'm a real person. These are some of the things I struggle with. Now let's see if this organization can help me with that.
Well said.
I think all fair points. And on the Bates thing, sometimes authenticity can make you more appealing, may not be the right way to put it, but more
relatable.
Build a deeper connection quicker.
Relatable is the word.
Put it to you this way. It'll make you more respected. It might not necessarily make you more liked.
Yeah, you can respect him for. And here's what I'm going to say about this too. You know what? And this is sometimes you do this in the media a lot too. You'll say, all right, you just heard the young man say that. The one thing that I took away from those, one thing I took away from his press conference is that he just was saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Like, yes, ma'am. Like, yes, ma'am.
To every reporter. To G's point, he responded to every reporter, yes, ma'am, or yes, sir.
And it reminded me, oh, you 41. That's still a kid. Like, it was like his first day of school, really. And it really was cool because I was sitting there watching him, and I'm like, man, this is really cool because he was just happy somebody wanted him.
Yeah,
he was happy. Tyvis, you know what that is?
Yeah, I was not wanted. 7 rounds by 32.
Right. And so when somebody called
But
you,
when that phone rang after that draft, ooh
But to add on to that, yeah, he was wanted. I don't know how it is to be drafted or to be wanted or nothing like that. But I do know how it feels to be like a head case and to be counted out, right? And so you put both of those things together, like, hell yeah, he's happy to be in the NBA. Yeah, he do feel rejuvenized. Yeah, he do feel refreshed, and maybe he did fall back in love with the game. This dude done been through a lot, and he's only 19 years old. And you got to, like, just couple those two things together, that you went from being this highly recruited high school player at 17 years old to at 19 years old, don't nobody believe that you're going to be in the NBA, and they think you're going to be playing in Europe in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? So, like, those two things combined, to me, I think that's he's humbled, man. And, like, life will humble you like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And I think for me as a media member, sometimes when you hear somebody talk, you take a step back and say, okay, as me hearing that, I heard him say, look, I just need some time, get his head straight, get his mind straight, get his body straight. I'm not going to push. And if you're the organization, you don't want to have triggers, right? It seemed to me like if I was around this young man, the pressure of him being who he was supposed to be is a thing. And that pressure dictates how you act on and off the court. So if it's me, I'm like this. Hey, take your time, dog. Take your time. If you want to do some, if you want to play, for the charge, so be it. If you just need a little time to, figure out the offense, hang around the guys, I will put him with a guy like Evan Mobley. Because you know why? Evan Mobley is a guy that was thrusted into the position, top 4 pick. They saying, you're going to be a unicorn. That's another thing. Like, we waiting on Evan Mobley to turn into Kevin Garnett. And what type of pressure is that? Like, and everybody is saying it too. So put these young guys together, and I think that's the reason why the Cavs said, and for better or worse, the Cavs got a bunch of group of guys on that team between Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Ricky Rubio. These dudes really got like some of the best character out of any guys in the NBA. Like, if you wanted a guy who thought he was not going to be able to do something or had some checkered past, the best place for him to be is there. Like, it's surrounding him, because at least they can tell him, look, bro.
Cleveland is a city of rehab.
I feel that.
I keep saying
I feel that, like, 90% I feel what you're saying, right? But just because these dudes is high character dudes and they straight and narrow don't necessarily mean they're suitable to be the right mentor for them. Because sometimes, man, you need somebody that can actually relate to where you've been at, relate to what you're going through. Jared Allen might not be able to get on his level. And if he can't get on his level, how can he seriously help him? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a stand-up dude and to just have it all figured out. But sometimes, man, you need somebody that's been through it, right? That's actually suitable based on their own life experiences to say, hey, man, you tripping. I know how this is. I got a big pet peeve about people trying to tell me something and you ain't ever walked in my shoes. So how you know? You know what I mean? And I just feel like that, I don't know who's like that on this team, but he probably needs somebody like that as a mentor. Not somebody that's always been straight up and down and never got in trouble. Maybe you need somebody who then overcame a few things that can help you as go on your journey. Because it's not always about, like, what's right or what's wrong. It's about what's suitable.
All well said. Emoni Bates, for better or worse, will be the most talked about 49th pick in recent memory, and I promise you, and we thank Emoni Bates because we get a lot of content out of what he's done. We're going to get a lot of content out of his summer league games.
When is the summer league game?
We appreciate it. Summer league game starts on Friday at 8:30, and guess what? At Friday around 5 o'clock, we'll be doing the second edition of the Behind the Glass podcast, previewing the Cavs Summer League and Emoni Bates, so make sure you check that out. Friday, 5 o'clock. We got two things we got to get to in the final.
16 point-ups, I'm guaranteeing. Go ahead. 16, I'm guaranteeing.
We're going to